want to move on here to the State of the Union address, which occurred a couple nights ago in Washington. And I'll tell you something, folks, it made me very, very upset. I was really angry watching this. I'll say it. Thank God for TiVo. Thank God the Red Wings and the Wild were on the Fox Sports Net. Because I think the first 15 or 20 minutes of listening to this, I think I was clinically dead. And I had to change the channel. And the president spoke for 68 minutes. 68 minutes of just meandering, structureless. He ought to fire whoever wrote that speech. Fire the teleprompter, I guess. I mean, it was structureless. It was just mind-boggling, the speech he gave. The president began it. He always begins every speech. You watch the president's patterns. He begins every speech by rehashing a bunch of stuff from the past. He always rehashes, spends 15, 20 minutes rehashing the same old stuff. And here's how he began his State of the Union. Watch this.
1 year ago, I took office amid 2 wars, an economy rocked by a severe recession, a financial system on the verge of collapse, and a government deeply in debt.
And a year later, we have 2 wars, a recession, and a government even more in debt. That's what we have 1 year later. That ought to be on your epitaph, Mr. President, right? Epitaph? Whatever you call it. He basically rehashed what we have right now. We still have all that. All right, then the president went on, talked about how he has not raised taxes. And I'm going to prove him wrong in a second. Listen to this.
And we haven't raised income taxes by a single dime on a single person. Not a single dime.
Well, on March 31st, first off, the health care bill alone that was passed by the Senate has $600 billion in new taxes. And notice the president said income taxes right there. Well, maybe that's true, but the idea he hasn't raised taxes is nonsense. March 31st, a little known part of the stimulus bill, this was on page like 1,947 in like the lower right corner, was that the tobacco tax was raised 62 cents a pack on the federal level. Now, Mr. President, I think that hit people making under $250,000. Same people you said you would never, ever, ever raise taxes on. Oh, no. Also, he failed to deal with 2 things that happen at the end of this year. 1, the Bush tax cuts will expire at the end of this year. 2, the alternative minimum tax is going to hit a record number of people at the end of the year. So maybe he should have said, I haven't raised income taxes on you yet. That should have been the line. Yet. He must have forgot a word. The teleprompter must have erased it. All right. Now, the president goes on now. He talks about climate change in the next one. And how, now listen to how he says. Right. Now watch this.
I know that there are those who disagree with the overwhelming scientific evidence on climate change. But here's the thing. Even if you doubt the evidence, providing incentives for energy efficiency and clean energy are the right thing to do for our future. Because the nation that leads the clean energy economy will be the nation that leads the global economy, and America must be that nation.
Right. So even if you don't believe in climate change, don't think it'll work, and you think cap and trade, and I don't have time to explain what cap and trade is, but even if you think it won't, you should vote for it anyway, because he says it's the right thing to do. Well, there was his, in his world, that's bipartisanship. In his world. All right, next he talks about health care. He talks about health care. He first starts bringing it up, the way liberals always do, by trotting out stories of victims. Listen to this.
Let's clear a few things up. I didn't choose to tackle this issue to get some legislative victory under my belt. And by now, it should be fairly obvious that I didn't take on health care because it was good politics. I took on health care because of the stories I've heard from Americans with pre-existing conditions whose lives depend on getting coverage, patients who've been denied coverage, families, even those with insurance, who are just one illness away from financial ruin.
Now, folks, this is again the liberals' attempt to try to sell health care as a free lunch. You know, if you require insurance companies to cover everyone, what they're going to do is they're going to take the people with pre-existing conditions, they're going to add that cost, and they're going to pass it off to all of us. So they may be covered, but that's going to raise your costs too. It's like having to insure every driver. Some drivers are worse than others. I happen to be the world's greatest driver. That's why insurance drives me crazy,